We'll get going. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here, whether you're joining us live or watching the replay. My name is Colleen Santoni, and I'll introduce our speakers today and run the Q&A at the end. This series is all about exploring real-world solutions to the challenges educators and leaders are facing today, from teacher burnout to inclusive practices to supporting sustainable student-centered schools. Keep things short and powerful, 30 minutes of meaningful insights, and we'll leave space at the end for your questions. So feel free to drop those into the Q&A as we go. Today's conversation is on tips to transform culture and build belonging. And we're excited to be joined by two thoughtful voices in education. First, let me introduce Dr. Jessica Werner, the founder and CEO of North Shore Learning. Jess is a former educator, a researcher, and a mom who started North Shore to help school leaders and teachers turn the latest neuroscience into practical, sustainable change. North Shore Learning works with schools worldwide, offering professional learning and support for teachers who work tirelessly to meet the diverse needs of their students. Joining Jess today is Vichai Saefong. Vichai is the principal of Irondale High School in New Brighton, Minnesota. Born in a refugee camp and shaped by the challenges of navigating school as an English learner, Vichai leads with empathy and a deep commitment to belonging and joy. Over his career, he has helped transform multiple schools across Minnesota by fostering cultures of trust, collaboration, and empowerment. His leadership philosophy centers on helping both students and educators grow through connection, courage, and purpose. We're so glad to have you here today, Vichai.
Thank you.
All right, let's get started. The first question is for both Vichai and Jess. Why does a school's culture matter so deeply in determining whether teachers and students thrive? Vichai, why don't you go first?
Yes, thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Jess. Thank you for inviting me, and our guests, thank you for being here. It's truly an honor and pleasure to be here with you all tonight and to be in community with you all. As I think about this question, why does schools culture matter so deeply? Culture in any school or any organization really sets the condition for us to accomplish our mission. So as for a school, of course, culture sets the condition for learning, right? Before instruction, before strategies, even before systems. Culture really sets up how people feel when they walk into the building. So for me, when I think about school culture, I'm really thinking about how do I set up an environment where not only our students can feel successful, but our staff can feel successful. And that means feeling safe, feeling seen, and feeling valued.
Great. Jess, you want to add to that?
It's funny, when you first asked, I had one thing in mind, and then I thought of a new thing. So right now, there is a projected shortage of 44 million teachers by 2030. That's projected globally. And it's almost 2026. So this is creeping closer and closer. And Colleen, you and I, we work in lots and lots of schools, and we were just chatting earlier actually about teachers we know in schools who are leaving, who are not going to make it through this semester. They're not going to make it through the year. They've already left. And what I hear from teachers who are looking for new schools or leaving old ones is it's really about culture. They are looking for a school where there's a culture where they feel like they matter, that they belong, and they're searching for that. And they're not searching for it in schools that have like the shiniest new objects or the facilities. Like they're looking for that feeling. So it's so critically important always. And especially right now as we're losing teachers to other schools and other professions.
Yeah. May I, Colleen, may I comment on that?
Sure, please.
Jess, you're absolutely right. 44 million sounds like a very scary number for someone who has to run a school, but you're absolutely right. We have our newer teachers that we're adding to our school are always commenting about the culture, about how it's different. And I think what culture helps is culture influences downstream, right? Culture influences attendance, not only for our students, but again, for our staff. It also impacts staff retention, which is what you're talking about, right? If someone is not in an environment where they feel like they can thrive, they have one of two choices: continue to go to work disengaged, or find a new space. And sometimes, unfortunately, they find a new occupation. And so really that culture helps with the retention piece.
I agree. I was just in a school yesterday, my first time in the school. And when I walked in, I thought, this space feels safe and it feels joyful. And you could just tell instantly. And I was there for 10 minutes when I knew that. And so you're right, it makes a difference for the teachers and the visitors, the students, when culture is strong. So wonderful. Thank you both. Okay, Vichai, tell us about some of the initiatives you've started at Irondale where you've seen a positive impact on the culture.
Ooh, you're asking me to go back about 3.5 years and coming right out of COVID and joining a whole new school environment. Let me think here. I think when I think of initiatives, right, we often think of like things that we can measure and things that looks good on paper. However, I think when I think about initiatives, I'm really thinking about again, coming back to this idea of culture. How do we reset culture, especially when trust is harmed, or when there are some past traumatic events or leadership residues that are just smeared all across the walls, right? And really, I think the initiative that I would say that was started upon taking this leadership position is the initiative to just get out, modeling what it means to get out into the open. So, for example, I would ask, when you walk into your typical schools, where would you find the administration?
Office.
Right, main office, right? Your principal, assistant principals, most of the time your secretary, some of the more clerical staff members. Well, I would say one of the most impactful initiative that has helped us transform our culture is upon the first day I decided to move, and it took a lot of convincing because again, this is unorthodox. I moved our associate principals out into the rest of the school. So the first year we had 4 associate principals, 3 APs, and 1 admin intern. Am I doing the number correctly? Nope, 3. My apologies, 3. And I put all 3 of them on 3 different corners of the building. And that was, again, that took a lot of convincing because everyone was used to coming down to the main office to see administration, right? Whether you're in trouble to see the assistant principal or you needed to meet with an administrator, you were in the building, you were in the front office. So that physical change of space really, I think, helped us cater to every action towards what we said we were going to do. We were going to focus on belonging. We were going to focus on partnership, joy, and engagement. Our 4 values that were determined based on feedback from different stakeholders. So we didn't create these values all on our own. We worked with our staff and our community, our students, to really see what it is that we can say we're about. And so having our assistant principals in 3 different corners of the building really allowed folks to humanize them as well. Because sometimes I think the biggest error that we make in school is when we put teachers versus administration, and we have to remind each other somehow that we're not each other's enemy. And I think sometimes the distance, right, the proximity from main office to the rest of the classroom creates this natural tension that doesn't need to exist. I'll pause there in case there's any questions or anything in comments about that.
I have 2. One is a comment. The presence is what you're talking about. You're talking about being present in a way that's really integrated and saying we're with you. And at this school that I just told you about that I walked into yesterday, the principal literally has a moving desk cart that she takes and she'll post up in different parts of the building. Her AP or throughout the school. It's noticeable. It is noticeable when there is an integrated administration with the teacher. So that's beautiful. Thank you. And my question is, would you be willing to share with us quickly those 4 core values that your team?
Yes. Yeah. Belonging, partnership, joy, and engagement. And when you line them up correctly, each letter, you can find each of the 4 letters of iron. So the I is in belonging, the R is in partnership, O is in joy, and the N is in engagement.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. You and your team work in dozens of schools. When you enter a school, what are the signs that tell you the culture is healthy or in need of change?
Actually, it definitely starts with what Vichai said. It starts right when you walk in. How am I greeted in the office? Am I greeted in the office? When I walk through the hallways, am I acknowledged as like being there or not? It's interesting. I think it's so interesting to have the visitor perspective because you feel it instantly. You can like put your finger on a bunch of different things. What you said too, Vichai, about just being out, being present. This is something that I think is so important for so many ways, for teachers, for students, for everybody. And it is so easy to get stuck at your desk with the things. So I know the intentionality and I know how hard it is to get people to move offices and classrooms. So, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Just who is in the hallways? Can you speak to just a little more about that too, about how that impacts the students and maybe like student behavior, tardies, some of the things that are usually issues in high schools?
Yeah, and I mean tardies and this old hallway culture was a huge issue that we were able to tackle. So having our associate principals out in the main areas of our building has really helped. Helped in terms of, again, having that presence piece where we can be proactive versus being reactive, right? So when the bell rings, we have all of our associate principals and our deans. We have a tremendous dean team, which, if you don't have deans, think of them as school counselors and extra supports, who during that first year, our first initiative was really getting our students into the classroom once the bell rings. And so one of still my pride, one thing that I constantly talk about is how that first year where it seemed like that was the most impossible task, because prior to that, after the bell, you could still see 100, 150 students just roaming in the hallway. And, we're a fairly big high school, so it can feel overwhelming, but that was a huge push that galvanized our staff. Was when we said, hey, we're going to make sure that students are inside of the classroom once the bell rings. And so having our associate principals in these different areas really helped them not only get students into the classroom, but build relationships with the students and the staff that are in that area. Again, I think the opportunity to be humanized and the opportunity to see efforts that are being made that oftentimes you don't see when you're so far away from one another.
You're seeing firsthand where the needs are and also building the relationships.
Yeah. And Jessica and Colleen, you guys brought up a good point. Like sometimes it's easy to get stuck in your office, handling some of the logistical things, responding to emails. We all get anxious about having our inboxes fill up. However, what is a logical solution nowadays is that you're right, Colleen, you have these mobile desks that you can put into different areas, and you can bring your laptop with you and still, clear out your inboxes and maybe snooze the one that you feel like I'm going to have to give extra attention to, so you can go and handle that later on. But, you can still be physically present. And that makes such a huge difference. I think that's not talked about enough in this field. It's just, what is the physical presence? And I'm short, I'm 5'1", so it's not about size. It's just about being there.
Presence. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Vichai, why do you think that so many school culture initiatives fall short? And what makes genuine transformation possible?
You shared a key word there, Colleen. I think the word is genuine, right? whenever an initiative is taken in any school, I really do think it comes back to whether or not you're genuine and you can articulate the why and your authenticity, right? And as you are, I think initiatives sometimes are too big, and we spend too much time planning and not partnering. And when I say partnering, I mean really just thinking about what that what that transformation is, like what is it that we determine is needed, and then jumping right in and trusting the folks around you to be able to um, help with some of the solution pieces too. We have this misnomer that a leader has to have all the plots laid out. I don't believe in that form of leadership. I do believe that in my school, in my building, someone reminded me that I said this during the first year. We have good bones at Irondale. At Irondale High School, we have amazing teachers. We have amazing support staff. Like there is nowhere else I would rather be. Now this is recorded, so I'm going to be held for this.
Evidence.
There's good bones in the building. So I think when it came to any initiative that we were trying, there was a there was a level of trust that existed with other folks, no matter what your title was, no matter what your experience was, that they got to be a part of that solution. So sometimes when an initiative is led by just one person, you don't really get that buy-in, and it's not sustainable.
Jess, any thoughts about that?
I like how you said sometimes initiatives are too big. I think in education, there's such a tendency to go big or to go new. And
Yep.
sometimes, like you said, especially when you know you're in an environment where you have like good bones, you've got the right people thinking, how can we make this smaller and more manageable? And also, how could I enlist the leadership qualities of my staff to help determine what this should be? I think that's like really excellent advice.
Yeah. Another key word you said that I heard was partnership, right? And I know that's one of your key values, but I could picture it as you were describing it, just enlisting the partners and the team and getting people that buy-in to move things forward in a positive way. So you're not doing it alone.
Absolutely. Couldn't do it alone.
Yeah, you can't. And I think oftentimes leaders can feel like they're alone when culture is difficult. So thank you for that painting that picture for us. Okay, another question for you, Vichai. What are some of the most effective entry points schools can use to begin transforming culture, especially when there's fatigue or resistance?
Yeah. Get out of your office. Get to know the people that are in your charge, not the people that you are in charge of, but the people that are in your charge. Get to know the people who will be doing the work when you're not looking. Really recognizing, just you articulated so well, like you don't have to overhaul everything, right? Change is seriously just intentional acts each and every day, each and every moment. And I know we talked about having your laptop out in the hallways with you and whatnot, but sometimes you also have to close your laptop and be able to be present with someone. I started doing this more so recently, so I can't say I'm the master of this, but try not to ask people, how are you doing? And I know that sounds weird, but typically the answer is, I'm doing good. Think of some question that's going to force them to think of an answer, and then you can actually have a real engagement take place. 2 weeks ago, I asked, I was asking around, I think I asked about 20 staff members, hey, what was your favorite meal from this past weekend? And you actually see them pause and think about it. And then what they were able to do was tell you stories behind what it was that they ate. I mean, I have a colleague from the district level. When I asked her this, she told me she was making a family recipe for chili with her mother-in-law, and it's just right. And I didn't think much of it, but 3 days later, I ended up with a quart size of chili on my desk. Right.
Dinner.
Yeah, dinner.
Yes.
And, it was lunch and dinner. It was delicious, right? And there were 2 other instances. Now, I'm not saying people are obligated to give me food when I ask questions, but because I think, if we can model what being present looks like, our staff would do the same for us, and our staff will humanize us in those moments that are hard. School leadership is so dang hard. Culture is so dang hard. I mean, I hope I'm conveying joy, but gosh, Jess knows this when I was sitting down talking to Jess. Man, leadership is so freaking hard. You turn around and, I mean, I don't know what's in my inbox right now, but I'm having this wonderful conversation. I can look in my inbox and I can take a hit there, you know? So really the opportunity to show the human side of you as a leader, I would suggest that as well in our efforts to strengthen culture and foster belonging. Sorry, I think I'm over speaking, so my apologies.
No, you're the
No.
future. We're happy to hear what you have to say. This is great.
Can I have a follow-up.
Yes,
When we were
please.
talking about resistance, going back to when you started implementing let's get kids in class by having staff in the hallway, I know that was a big change from what people were used to and how they were used to handling tardies. Did you face any resistance, and how did you work with that?
Ooh, I, I don't know if I would label it under resistance, because I think everyone was kind of fed up with the fact that students were not in class after the bell. I would say more so there were some hesitation in terms of the practice and understanding, you know, some of the asks of our teachers, right? One of the things was just, hey, can you be at your door before the bell ring and greet students as they're coming in? And you know, as the bell rings and you see some student running down a hall to get to your class, like how can we show grace in those moments as well, knowing that we need to provide some grace in the change of habits and behaviors from our students. You know, there's always going to be an initiative that rubs someone the wrong way, and again, those are the opportunities to go to them and say, hey, what am I missing? We started, there's a practice that we have for our Muslim students who have asked to pray, and we're trying to figure out how to provide enough supervision that this can happen in a sacred way and in a respectful way. And, you know, one of the things where we're going to have staff help supervise. And I know there's some level of discomfort with staff members. So being able to meet them in terms of where they feel uncomfortable and help them grow from that part and still honor our students at the same time. So there's, you know, I would say there's going to be resistance all the time. You're never, as a leader, you're never going to hit everything 100%. But again, how can we humanize those who also may just not be on the same path as we are at that moment?
Right.
Yeah. And asking for their input, you know, getting the buy-in, like you said, and trying to understand where people are coming from. And it takes more time, right? But it could also save you that time later because you've connected and you've allowed people to feel heard. So
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Jess, I have a question for you. What advice would you give teachers who want to positively impact culture but feel burned out or disconnected themselves?
Ooh.
You're next, Vichai.
No, I'm glad Jess got
I want to know what you're thinking.
I have time to think.
I don't know. You know, Colleen, you and I, we work with so many teachers and we hear this theme all the time. And really, I want to go back to what you're saying about presence, because it's so critical. Yet when we're feeling burnt out, our tendency is to like withdraw. It's to like stay in our classroom. It's to not go to the after school event. It's to like keep to myself. But really, we know that part of well-being is like positive social interactions, being around others. And so I know how hard it is to go against that tendency to just like want to pull inward. But when we get out, like you said, we remember why we became teachers in the first place. You know, nobody got into it for the money and the recognition, but sometimes just going out, talking to your colleagues, going to that student event, the basketball game, I don't know, some of the things that we think might drain us can actually fuel us and give us life.
Colleen, I know you're coming to me with that question, and I'm just gonna jump right ahead and say I'm gonna second everything that Jess has said, because the word that popped up in my head was community, right? I think anytime we feel burnt out in any part of our life, we need to check and see where are we having those social connections in those environments, whether that's at home, at church, or at school. if we feel burnt out in those spaces, we have to take a step back and assess ourselves. Like where am I getting the social engagement that's actually making this rewarding? And school, obviously for teachers, that's a place of occupation. And so it's not something that you would say, I don't need anymore. You need to pay your bills. But like if you are experiencing burnout but still want to make a positive impact, think about where you are having those positive social interactions, where you are able to find aspects of your job that's rewarding, and that's really through the relationships. What's cool is that I've asked our teachers, hey, what's your favorite thing about working at Irondale? They always talk about the community aspect, and that tells me that that's healthy for them, and that's healthy for the culture that we're trying to set forth. They always come back to, I feel like I have a community with my colleagues.
Yes, definitely. Community is key, professionally and personally, for our teachers. Wonderful. Okay, Jess, another question for you. How can teachers help create a sense of belonging, not only for students, but for one another? Okay, so we're talking about community.
Yeah.
How do you move forward? How do you proactively create that sense of belonging for the students and for each other?
Well, I'm going to reference a leader I spoke with a few months ago on this webinar series who she's in her late 20s. She's a new school leader. And we asked her a similar question and it just stuck in my mind. She said, don't wait for belonging to come to you. Go out and create it yourself. Like, don't sit around waiting for the school to give you the opportunities. Create them with your colleagues or for yourself. And I just thought that was such smart advice because we can do things informally. We can have lunch with our colleagues. We can interact socially quickly before school. Again, it's that intentionality and presence. But I would say, yeah, getting out and finding it when you need it. And it provides that model to our students as well. Like, I want to know more about our neighbors in the class next door. So that would be my advice based on Sophie. Sophie, if you're listening, I thank you.
Thank you, Sophie, for your wisdom. Vichai, anything to add to that?
Only that Sophie sounds like she's gonna have a very long career as a school leader because she just talked about what I tell my students: to experience belonging, create belonging. Right? If you are sitting there wondering why you are not experiencing it, take the leap of faith and create belonging. I can assure you that you're gonna feel it as you create that for others. So Sophie, shout out to you. Big ups.
That's actually a great way to kind of end this part. The question and answer here is to experience belonging, create belonging, and kind of charge all of our listeners and ourselves with that mission. Okay, are there any questions from our participants? Anyone, any Q&A questions in our chat? Please put it in there. We would love to answer any questions you have for Vichai or for Jess in the last minute we have here. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions being added. But maybe, Vichai, one more quick question for you is, was there an adult in your life that really helped you to feel like you belonged? And what did that person do to make you feel that way?
That's a curveball.
Oh.
You know what? I've been trying to find this guy, so hopefully he sees this video. There's this man by Coach. I call him Coach Vincent Goldman. He was the closest thing to a father figure that I had growing up, and so he did it in a way where he held me to high expectation, but that high expectation with high accountability and high love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We need those mentors in our lives for sure.
Absolutely.
So, okay, it is almost time
I
for
think
us
we could
to end.
There was one question though. I think we have time for it. If Vichai, if you're good with it.
Let's go.
A few more minutes.
Okay, the question from one of our participants is, what do we do about culture when it feels like it's a mindset?
Ooh. Jess, you want to take that one first? You want me to take it first?
I want to know what you say.
Ooh, I think when we talk about mindset, we also have to realize the things that we are in control of and the things that we are not. And when in the work of culture, there's a word that folks don't want to hear, but it's truth. It requires patience. You're gonna have your early adopters who are, ready to ride for you, right? Belonging, partnership, joy, and engagement. Students first. Yep, we're gonna absolutely do that. And then you're also gonna have a few who will require some time in changing that mindset. Then you also realize even within that group, you're gonna have some where you won't be able to change their mindset. That's just where they are. And so you as a leader decide where you want to spend your time. You're going to spend your time continuing to move the needle, or you can continue your time trying to move an immovable object. That's my answer off the top. So Jess, you probably have a better one. Dr. Werner.
No, that was good. I was thinking progress, not perfection. You know, when you're rolling out something new, and initiatives take a long time for full implementation. I don't know that they ever get full buy-in, but like you said, maybe patience and then reassessing as time goes on. Is this somebody who is going to get on the bus, or is this person not ever going to get on the bus? But those are the kind of conversations, sometimes one or two people set the tone for culture in schools, and not in a positive way. It's not the right fit. So asking yourself those hard questions, and maybe asking the staff, is this something you want to participate in? And if not, is there a better place where you don't have to do this? And I know we don't like to talk about that, especially with the teacher shortage, but it matters so much. Those people who are willing to get on the bus, even if they're like tiptoeing on, like they're taking their time. Yeah.
Thank you both so much. And thank you everyone, your participants, and for your question. And just grateful for all of you making time to be with us today. So, okay, that's a wrap on our conversation today. Thank you again, Dr. Jess Werner and Vichai Saefong, for sharing your time and expertise. Before we go, can you let let us know how our listeners can get in touch with you to learn even more about culture and belonging?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for this opportunity to, again, be in community with you all. It was a fun conversation, and I hope that we continue to find ways to have these conversations on how we can better our school. Quite honestly, you can, here's the truth. You can find me on our school website, because honestly, I don't own any social media accounts for my own personal reasons. And so feel free to find me via my email, vichai.saefong@mountainviewschools.org. Yep, Irondale High School website. You can find me if you want to reach out. If I can help you with anything in terms of leadership and culture, I won't say I have all the right answers, but I will invite you to reach out, and I'll walk alongside you.
Thank you. Jess?
And yeah, for us, and I'm happy if anybody wants to start at our website, northshorelearning.org, and there's a little form that you fill out, and I'm happy to put you in touch with Vichai. Also, it's when you fill out this form, it gives you access to this quick tips for well-being that we share with our school partners. And it's for teachers who have 30 seconds or 30 minutes, but just ways people can refuel during the day. So happy to hear from anybody, and thanks for all you do for students around the world.
We're so grateful. Okay, so if you're watching live or catching the replay, we hope you'll join us for the next episode of the North Shore Learning Series. Keep an eye on your inbox or follow us on LinkedIn to get updates. Thank you again for showing up to be part of these conversations. We believe better support for educators means a better future for our students. See you next time. Thank you all. Thank you, Vichai and Jess.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.